Hello! Today I'm going to be talking about a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time and finally did, and that is Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This book was published in 2003 and is 390 pages long, so she's pretty thick, pretty dense. It is called Devil in the White City because it's about the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, which was also known as the White City because they painted all the buildings white, and the devil part refers to one of America's first serial killers, not the first, but one of them, named H.H. Holmes, and he operated during the World's Fair, and so that is what this book is about. This book is nonfiction. It's not a novel, it's historical nonfiction. I don't know, I guess he writes historical nonfiction. You can tell that this man puts a lot of effort and energy into researching his books because the amount of research that must have gone into this just like blows my mind. Probably took him years. I could never. I'm just gonna read what this is about from Wikipedia to summarize it. Devil in the White City, murder, magic, and madness at the fair that changed America is a 2003 historical nonfiction book by Erik Larson, presented in a novelistic style. The book is based on real characters and events. It tells the story of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago from the viewpoint of the designers, including Daniel Burnham, and also tells the story of H.H. Holmes, a criminal figure in that same time, often credited as the first modern serial killer. And then it says right below that, Leonardo DiCaprio purchased the film rights in 2010. Leo! So my sister tried to read this book and said she just couldn't get into it, and I can see why. It's really dense. There's a lot of characters, a lot of talk about architecture. I wanted to read this book because anyone who knows me knows I love true crime, and I feel like that's becoming more normal these days. Like, true crime is like a fad right now, but since I was little, my mom and my sister and I used to always watch like Nancy Grace, who is a trash human being, by the way, but we used to love watching her. 2020, Dateline, Forensic Files, like I grew up watching that stuff, and I think that I'm just super fascinated by it. Like, I don't like murder, I don't think murder is fun, but I am interested in the like psychological aspects of it, and I think it's really impressive how like detectives and police work together, and I think forensics is super cool, and so like I'm interested in the whole I don't think there's my cat's tail. So anyway, I wanted to read this book because a lot of people have probably heard of H.H. Holmes, or you might have heard of him as the man who built the murder castle, and I will probably insert a picture or something. It was basically just a really shoddily built 3-story building that took up like a whole block on Horace, my cat just jumped up on the tripod, so that's why it's wiggling. Don't! He was basically this like crazy con man. He would hire tons of contractors and say, I need you to build this staircase. And then they would build it, he would say, Horace, stop, Horace. Sorry. So he would have these people like build a hallway, build a room, put up a wall, build stairs, and then he'd say, you did a shitty job, and then he wouldn't pay them. So he would, basically he built this whole thing for free. He was always buying shit on credit, never paying his creditors back. He had a whole bunch of fake names. Like, this man was a master con artist. And he built this big building so that it was like specifically designed to a serial killer's specifications. It had greased chutes, which is exactly what it sounds like. It was a chute, kind of like a laundry chute, except it was for bodies, and he would take the dead bodies of the women he just murdered and drop them in the chute, and they drop into the basement. It's really gory. He killed a lot of people this way. And this was 1893, so people, you know, they wouldn't hear from their daughter, and they would just assume she like ran off and married someone. And he got away with this for like years. And the crazy thing is, he didn't get caught for murder. He finally got caught for fraud. Finally, like after years of doing this kind of thing. He's just this really interesting character. Apparently he was really handsome, which I guess in 1893 means you weren't fucking hideous, because I've seen pictures of him and it's like, But apparently he was super handsome and super charming, which are, charming is a big characteristic of like psychopaths because they're able to manipulate people, and he had like 5 wives and he manipulated people his whole life and murdered them. So I thought this book was going to be mostly about him, and it was actually about 80% about the World's Fair and about 20% about H.H. Holmes. I was hoping it'd be the other way around. I was hoping it would be a book mostly about H.H. Holmes with a little bit of World's Fair sprinkled in there. But I would say if I were to break this book up into chunks of what's about the World's Fair and what's about H.H. Holmes, I'd say World's Fair, H.H. Holmes. So that part was just a smidge disappointing, but I got over that really quickly because the part about the World's Fair is still really, really, really interesting. And the writing is like, Erik Larson, I didn't look this man up. I should have like looked at a biography of him or something, but a fantastic writer. There's some parts, I mean, I can't think of a line off the top of my head, but there are parts in this that are so funny and sassy and sarcastic that I'm like, he didn't go that in depth about H.H. Holmes, and it's called The Devil in the White City. It should have been The White City featuring a devil man. That is literally the only issue I had with this book, is that it's not enough about H.H. Holmes for me. But if you are looking for a book about the Chicago World's Fair, which in itself is so interesting and so cool and weird and crazy, read this book. I would recommend this to anybody, honestly. You don't have to be into true crime because there's not that much true crime in there. Like, there's a couple chapters about Holmes here and there. Most of this book is about him being a con man and not him being a murderer. And I wish they would have gone into him being a murderer more, because this was massive news when he got caught, because this was right around the time in England Jack the Ripper was happening, and people in America were like, oh, we would never have such a criminal in the United States. And then boom, a few years later this man gets caught and confesses to like 30 murders. So people say true crime is a fad now, but back in the 1890s people were obsessing over Jack the Ripper. This book, 5 out of 5 stars, so good. Really love the writing. I love reading nonfiction because it makes me feel a little bit like smart. The only thing is that I wish there was more information on H.H. Holmes, but I know there's more books out there about him and I will go check them out. But anyway, Devil in the White City, give it a read, loved it, super good. I'm currently reading the Michelle Obama autobiography, loving it. Didn't realize she was such a good author. A lot of times people write autobiographies or memoirs and you can tell, like Kris Jenner's memoir, she called it. Kris Jenner is not a good writer, okay? Some people are just naturally good writers. Michelle Obama, so far, I'm only like 80 pages in and it's very good. So I will do a review on that one next. And then once it's Halloween time officially, like October, I'm gonna read some spooky stuff and hopefully do some reviews on that. Otherwise, I hope your quarantine's going well. Please wear a mask and register to vote.